Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day you're listening to us. Welcome back to Bumper Sticker Wisdom. I am Jason.
I'm John.
And I'm Dad.
This is part 2 of last week's episode. Just to kind of fill you guys in on what was going on. We made it through 5 to 15-ish.
Yes.
5 to 15-ish.
We're going to carry on from here, 15 to 26-ish, and then going to really get in depth with the 26 to now, which I think is the biggest part of this that you guys want to get out there.
Yeah.
If you were not listening before, he's talking about age chronology in the life of my son and I and how we got on the path to God that we're on right now. So just so you know.
And how our personal relationship between each other started very, very broken.
Yeah.
And continued on very broken until my mid-20s.
Yeah. But is redeemed at this point.
God intervened.
And God intervened 100%.
God intervened. It's divine intervention, as you will soon see.
1,000%.
Yes.
Before I move on, I want to make sure, as always, we want to lift it up in prayer. So if you'll bow your heads with me, guys. Father in heaven, again, we just want to thank you. I have nothing else to say but thank you. Thank you for your peace. Thank you for your great grace. Thank you for giving us the boldness to say the things that we're saying, because the world can perceive them a certain type of way. All we want to do is tell the story, the truth about the things that have happened between us and to us and through us by your will, Father God. We thank you, Father, for giving us this opportunity in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen. All right. So I'll let you gentlemen kind of I'll let you gentlemen kind of open this back up. I know you said you had something that you wanted to touch on from the last episode, though.
Yeah, we covered a lot of how my life from birth till 5 was disturbed emotionally and physically, and how that started me on a path of deeper brokenness, how broken I was already, and how there was an opportunity for that to change, and I turned it on its head. But I got into it with me. You heard what was going on with John between 12 and 15. Me between 12 and 15 is when I really went off the rails. I started smoking when I was 12. We went to Germany. My dad's in the military. We went to Germany. And I was, as I had always been, very outcast, very shunned, very put down. And I, of course, gravitated towards the wrong kind of people.
Yeah.
Started smoking hash. Ooh, talk about some good stuff. I'm not suggesting you go try it, but oh baby, I didn't know what getting high was.
Yeah.
But that's the people that accepted me. They didn't care that I was broken or I was a misfit. They're like, yeah, come on over here. Let's go get high. We'll do some of this. I did pills, downers, uppers, hashish, smoking cigarettes. The girls were easier to get along with when you were stoned. It was a lot more fun.
Touche.
But that's when I really seriously started getting into trouble.
Yeah.
Getting caught smoking in the bathroom, getting caught necking under the stairs, or
whatever it was.
Skipping school, got kicked out of school, ran away from home, got picked up by the military police and put in jail for the first time. I asked my dad then if he could get me psychiatric help.
Yeah.
And he said, no son of mine is going to no GD head shrinker. So I cried out for help, man.
Yeah. Well, it kind of rings back to a conversation that we had today, you and I did, about mental health. And look, I think the beauty of today's age is that people recognize that mental health is a real thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's something to be paid attention to.
Yes.
I also believe that it's a crutch.
It can be.
It can be anyway. Not in all cases.
If someone is truly struggling with mental health, it's very apparent.
Yeah.
It is very apparent nowadays.
And it should have been then to my parents.
You can see it. You can feel it. You know it. Now, some people are really good at masking it.
Yeah.
So I can't say that it's the same for everyone because, and you know the story, I lost 2 of my very dear friends 8 weeks apart.
Yeah.
To mental health and
it jacks you up.
It jacks you up, and you've seen how I get very emotional very frequently over that. Just certain little things always hit me, and when they do, it really gets me good. But if you pay enough attention to somebody, you can clearly see.
Yeah.
Some people, that you can tell it's, I can think of a couple people off the top of my head that I know it's more of a crutch.
Yeah.
But I can think of a couple people off the top of my head that I know are clearly dealing with something.
Sure.
So,
well, and from that period of my life was probably the hardest for me because me and my poor stepmom were at odds so bad. There were things that happened between me and her that worse have happened. What happened between your mom and her husband was worse. My mom got so mad at me one time she threw a coffee cup at me.
Yeah.
And it shattered on the wall, and she picked up a piece of it and stabbed me in the top of the shoulder with it and basically lost her mind, started running around the room giggling, I cut him. She went in the cellar and locked herself in there with a bottle of bourbon until my dad got home. And oh, baby, did the stuff fly when he got there. And she didn't deserve any of that. But I knew something was wrong with me besides the fact that I just was an outcast.
Yeah. Right.
Things I was feeling, things I was thinking. That's when suicidal stuff first started creeping in my head.
Yeah.
The 2 of the things that actually kind of helped start pulling me out of it was I discovered that I was a very good writer.
Yeah.
So was he.
Was very good with words and language and music.
Yeah.
I loved drums.
Yeah.
I started playing drums and started listening to music. And that guy right there,
Uncle Kenny
Traylor and the Blue Bloods, the blues king of Dallas-Fort Worth, introduced me to stuff I'd never heard. I wasn't really into music.
Yeah.
He started playing me B.B. King and Paul Butterfield and Miles Davis and Frank Sinatra and Bob Dylan. And I was like, wow.
And you heard Jimmy.
And Jimmy came out about then. And it changed my whole world. Yeah. It gave me something to focus on besides my anger and my torment and my pain and my hatred of society and people that didn't understand and nobody caring, nobody listening. That lifted me up enough to get me through till I was past puberty and out of my teens and into being a young adult.
Yeah.
My behavior didn't change a lot,
right.
Because I discovered drugs, man. And the 60s happened, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Hell yeah, I'm up for all 3 of them, buddy. Let's go. That's exactly where I want to be.
Yeah. I would tell you, just the musical aspect of things. Sports is the way he and I connected.
Yes.
Okay, because there wasn't anybody around me other than my mom she was a Cowboys person. And she was involved in sports in that way. But there was nothing else. You know what I'm saying? So we would talk about the Cowboys a little bit. We would cheer together. I learned how to be very violently angry at the referees through my mother and all that stuff.
I was a Packer fan. Boo.
But the thing about my dad was he's a sports guy. And he has so much knowledge in his mind about sports and stuff that happened in sports that, I siphoned all that stuff right out of him, man. And I sucked it up. And that's how we connected, right? Yeah. Oddly enough, my musical connection was with my mom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And she's not a musical person either. But we connected over the Beatles, okay? Yeah. And so we talked from 5 to 15 for me, right?
Yeah.
And the reason I know it was 15, it was the summer of my freshman year. So at 94, I started my freshman year. It was 95 when it ended. Okay, so 95 was the summer. I know this.
Oh, yeah.
Because the following school year is when I met my first wife, and I was 15. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. By 95, I was in a much better place.
Right.
Much better place.
But at this point, this is where the story gets interesting because he's in a better place, but I'm not.
He's not.
Right. But you've heard about this cliff jumping moment.
Yeah. Wasn't that about where you started discovering heavy metal?
It was.
Too?
Yes.
So?
It was.
Right.
But that's the thing. So my years from roughly 12 to 15, 12 to 14, 2 years, I got in a lot of trouble. I was very passive. I got beat up a lot. My mom eventually pulled me out of school and put me in a private school. It was year round, but I only went half a day. And she owned her own business at the time, and it was called Education Plus. At the time, it was called EduCraft, right? And she was in a building on, it was off of 10th downtown, right? Eventually moved to Sunset Center, and I drove by there a few days ago. I didn't realize what had happened over there, how much it changed.
Oh, dude, it's completely different.
It broke my heart to see because there's a part of my life that is in that building is gone now. Yeah. That's a whole different thing.
That's a whole like a trade center now.
Yeah.
You know,
but go ahead.
My sophomore year of high school.
Yeah.
I was 15, 16. The last year we were in Germany.
Yeah.
We left there in 70.
Yeah.
We were there from 67 to 70. I got kicked out of school.
Yeah.
Not suspended, expelled, out, done, don't come back. I ran away from home like 2 weeks before we were supposed to transfer back to the States. And my dad was frantically looking all over Germany to find me. The military police found me and took me to jail. Well, they got me back home. I spent the rest of that summer until we left sitting at our kitchen table under my evil stepmother's watchful eye. And when we got back to the States, they didn't have my records for my sophomore year of school. So when I went into the high school, it was time for me to start my junior year. They just wiped out my sophomore year and said, "Okay, you're a junior."
Wow.
Gave me I started as a junior instead of going back and taking my sophomore year over again. And that time, you know how I am about the country. We're talking about East Texas, in the woods, Rusk. Yeah. We lived with my grandparents, and I spent that summer and most of that next year in East Texas getting over a lot of this stuff and learning how to connect and listening to my grandma talk about the Bible and going to church with her on occasion.
Yeah.
And then we came back to Fort Worth, and I finished my senior year in Fort Worth and graduated and started working. And eventually I met his mom, and we came back up here, and I started getting in trouble again. We came up here, and I started getting in trouble again. So yeah.
12 to 14, I am now in private school. I go to school half day, and then I went to work. My mom would pick me up from school. She would close down the shop for 30 minutes, long enough to come get me, and we would pick up lunch, and I would go to work. And I actually worked there. It was attached to my stepdad's dad's paper warehouse, my first warehouse experience at 12. Okay. That's why I have lots of warehouse experience.
Yes.
I've been in warehouses my whole life, right? And I'm not going to say what I do now, but, anyway. Yeah. So that stretch in time from about 12 to 14 before I went back to public school was probably some of the best that I had with my mom. We connected, right? And we started connecting over the oldies. At that time, it was the 40s, 50s, and 60s, the oldies channel. Now it's like the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and I'm like, oh, screw oldies. All of you.
Like oldies? That's not oldies. What are you talking about?
So, I learned about Elvis. I learned about Buddy Holly. The Beatles. I really gravitated towards the Beatles. But the Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, Jimi Hendrix, all of these things. And we connected over this music. And oddly enough, I had a bunch of records that she gave me that were all his that she had taken from him when they had separated. Yes. But so it's weird to me because my mom was a diehard Cowboys person and not really all that musical. And my dad was a music lover, bro. And I wouldn't really say that he necessarily influenced my relationship with music until much later in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I understood what the blues were and all that, but I didn't really start to have an appreciation and love of blues until I was a grown man.
Yeah.
And I thought my Uncle Kenny was a country guy.
He was for a while.
Yeah, I thought he was a country guy. And I'm not into country. I never was. My mom hated country. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I had some friends that introduced me to, like Metallica, Megadeth, Pantera, Slayer, all that kind of stuff. And yes, I'm very much a heavy metal lover because why? I was angry, and that stuff helped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when during those years, the times when you would come down to stay with me, I wasn't into doing a lot of music stuff. I would listen to music, but
Yeah.
We weren't talking about it. We were talking about sports.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking about baseball. We're buying baseball cards and Nintendos and Sega Genesises and playing Tecmo Bowl and basketball and all that stuff.
First time I had ever heard anything about fantasy sports ever in my freaking life was this dude in like the late 80s doing fantasy basketball. And I watched this dude digging through stats on green bar printed paper, this wide, this tall, folded in sheets, you know what I mean? Stats for Mookie Blaylock and all these stats and all this stuff for basketball in the late 80s, brother. I'm telling you. So
Chris Mullin and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson.
So like I got sports education from having experience with my dad. And if I ever wanted to talk sports, that's who I talked to when I had the opportunity to talk.
Me up. Yeah.
We talked. Oh man, I was confused then. I thought I was an A&M fan.
Yeah, well, you thought you were an A's fan too.
You thought he was a what?
I thought I was an Oakland A's fan too. I loved Jose Canseco. I did. Of course, he's a POS or not. You know what? He's a person, and he just wasn't a very nice person to his fans.
Well, it took a while before the Rangers got there, and then Granny got you turned around on the right track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My granny, his stepmom, bro. That's the most diehard baseball fan I have ever been around in my life.
Rangers too, huh?
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
Bro, she told me about Pudge Rodriguez 2 years before he hit the bigs. She's like, you wait, you watch. And then he turns into a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Like she paid that close attention.
She would sit by her radio.
Yep.
Or by the television. Every game, exhibition, regular season, didn't matter, with a notebook. Every pitch, every at-bat, strike, foul ball, base hit, person's name, what they did. Every inning, every game, all year long. She had stacks of notebooks 19 feet tall.
That's not
of Rangers games.
I didn't know it at the time, but I remember, okay, so she loved Eric Nadel. Okay,
Yes.
he's the radio call.
Yeah.
Still. To this day.
Yeah.
She would have it on her TV, but have the volume down and have it on the radio to listen to Nadell on the call.
Yeah.
And she would be sitting at the kitchen table, the dining room table, with notebooks writing the whole time. I never knew what she was doing until much later in life. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is part of where my love of the game of baseball comes from.
Yeah.
Right. I actually, you know me well enough to know that I'm pretty much a sports fan of all sports. The DFW sports in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my true love is baseball.
Yeah.
I see the game differently than the average fan. You know what I'm saying? So, anyway, a lot of that's cultivated through these things that happen.
Yeah. My favorite, I was always NFL.
Yep.
Okay. Football, college football, NFL football. I didn't care two squats about baseball.
Yeah.
Till the Rangers came along and he changed that. Because all he ever wanted to talk about baseball. Dude, I don't know nothing about baseball. You know? So, but we started sharing that because I could share that with him. And we'd watch baseball games. We went to baseball games.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And the music, like he said, came along much later. Really not until after I moved up here.
Yeah. Man, that's part of the story after the 2015 to 26 era. So, 15, I got knocked off a cliff.
Yes.
That same school year, I was introduced formally to what would become my first wife. Before I turned 16, So we're talking. She and I became a couple. Come on, man. We were teenagers. In probably November-ish of '95, I was kicked out of my house at my mom's house in early March of '96. I wasn't 16 yet. I turned 16 in April.
That's kind of when we started losing track of each other.
Yeah. So I was kicked out of my mother's house.
You went to live with your brother, didn't you?
Nope, that was before. That was something that happened before the cliff. So again, I hated my existence in my life so badly that I went and stayed with my brother for a while. I'd done a lot of different things. The only person in my life at that time that I felt like really cared about me was my baby sister, but she was a baby. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm 10 years older than her. So she was 5 when I'm going, 2 when I'm going through all of this stuff. And anyway, I kind of forgot where I was at, but I met her that's right, March-ish of '96. My mom kicks me out. My girlfriend's mom lets me move in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm amazed that she didn't get pregnant earlier.
Yes.
Because it took at least a little over a year. I was 17 when my first son was born, so yeah, it probably didn't take that long.
Yeah.
I don't know how far backwards you want to go.
Go ahead.
Or do we need to? Well, because, I mean, we haven't covered the period between. Well, yeah, I guess we have. Well, we haven't told everybody how we ended up being estranged to begin with. We haven't covered the fact that I met your mom, got married, moved up here, got divorced.
And you left.
Ran off to Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Did we talk about that in the last episode?
Yes.
Yeah. We did? See, I'm just freaking lost, dude.
Yeah. And then we made it all the way up to the point where you said I could come live with you and you told me no.
Right.
That's the jumping off point.
Right. Okay. So, for me, up to the point where you got married, you're talking about what, 95?
No, I got married in 99.
Okay, 99. For me, between the time, because of when I went back to Fort Worth, and I moved back in with my parents, right, living with my mom and dad, until I got a job and could get back out on my own, and pretty much got off of drugs. I was drinking a lot. I was a Jack Daniels a day guy then, but I quit doing all the chemicals and other stuff I'd been doing while I was up here. And I decided I'd had a suicide attempt by then. I had a hospitalization by then. And I decided that I wanted to help people who were dealing with the same thing I was. So I went to community college, got an associate's degree in mental health technology, graduated with a 3.75 GPA, amazingly to me. That's the one time that my dad was really, really proud of me. Because when I got out of high school, I had like a 2.2, and the fact that I could get through junior college with a 3.7 GPA was astounding to him. He was very proud of me for that. So that helped the two of us and my stepmom heal some things.
Yeah.
I went to work in a psych hospital. I worked in a psychiatric hospital, private, for a while. Worked for the county in alcohol and drug abuse units for a while. And I was getting on a more positive path. He was trying to.
Yeah.
With Crystal and about to have a kid on the way. But our visits and our interactions got fewer and fewer and fewer.
Yeah, few and far between.
Fewer and fewer.
It was pretty distant at that point.
Pretty sparse
because,
by then.
What happened really at that point is when my mom got a hold of me, really, because at that point he had done something to me that, and I know it wasn't necessarily all him, although he had his part in it. He had done something to me that was betrayal at that point.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you said we were good and this was the plan and all that. And then when the time came, you said no, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can only imagine how shocked you must have been.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm going to say.
I had murder on my mind again.
I'm sorry again. I'll say it. I'm sorry.
There's nothing to apologize for at this point.
Not at this point. I think now at this point,
It's just
life
part
has
of the story.
happened.
Yeah. I can't look at it as the wrong decision, but it's heartbreaking to me still as your father to know that you went through that because of something I did when it was totally, that would be like you coming to me and say, right now, after all this time, Dad, you got to leave.
Yeah.
It's that kind of betrayal.
Yeah.
And I know how that would feel to me. I know how that felt to you.
Right.
As good as things are right now, at the time, it was absolutely not.
Yeah.
So
I lived with my first wife, Crystal is her name, and her mom and her sister and brother and some boyfriends of her mom and lots of crazy things. Whew. That's a whole nother thing. I'm not talking about all that, but 16-ish, I actually lived with my friend, Scott, that I've told you about that just moved back from Colorado. I lived with him for a little while. And there was a pregnancy scare. That didn't happen. She had a miscarriage or whatever. But, again, I ended up going back to live with them again. I refused at this point in my life to ever go back to my mom's house. I didn't care if I slept on the streets. I'm not going back.
Yeah.
She would have let me come back, but I ain't going back. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
At that point, it was you'd had enough.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
So I'm 17. I now have a pregnant girlfriend. We're not married. She has my first son in January of 98. So I'll be 18 in 4 months. I was 17 when he was born. August of 99, had my second child. There's a whole lot of things that happened in between there.
Yeah. Not
super important. But part of it, you know what I mean? Like, we split up for a period. I came back. I was a mess. Yeah. She got to, look, we're like brother and sister now.
Yeah.
Like, she watched me grow up. And the man that she divorced wasn't the man that she knew all those years. You know what I'm saying? But at that point, all the damage had already been done. You know what I mean? Like, I was never physical or anything like that, but I wasn't a good person, man. I didn't cheat or anything like that, but it couldn't have been a great existence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I wasn't the man that you have right now. All that had to be developed through all of these trials and all of these challenges. The one thing I knew for sure is that I was a dad, right? Again, I know the story here between us, and it's not anything I say is not a knock towards him. Okay, I need people to understand that. I need you to understand that.
I don't take it that way.
There was a time when I was so angry at him that it was game over. I didn't want anything else to do with him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I wrote stuff. There's a lot. Look, you've seen some of the stuff. There's a lot that I don't have. Yeah. But I wrote things that said, I'm just going to be better than you. I'm going to be a better father.
Yeah. There was a point for me, too.
Yeah.
Around in those same years that because of the way things had gone up till then, I was at a point where I thought, you're better off without me.
Sure.
Yeah. That did contribute to my distance from you.
Right.
Emotionally. I can't deny that it did. I wasn't going to openly tell you, I don't want to see you again. You're not, I don't have a son. I never said anything like that.
No.
I never felt anything like that.
Didn't have a lot of opportunities to say it either.
No, and I didn't. But part of something seriously started changing for me in those times, because right after I went back to Fort Worth, 83, 84, it was around 86, I think. I had worked at a little AM station in Fort Worth, not as a DJ, just cutting commercials and doing advertisement stuff. And I moonlighted as a DJ at a club. It was a lot different then than it is now.
Yeah.
Okay. You basically stood up there behind this console with a turntable and talked to people and played records and took requests and played records and announced drink specials and blah, 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 blah.
Completely different than it is
Completely
now.
different than what it is now, yes. But I met a guy who witnessed to me.
Okay.
And I talked to him. He was a real friendly, good guy. Walked like a woman, gave us a $3 bill. But, you know. but he really wasn't. We connected because he was raised in a house full of women.
Yeah.
Right.
And he was more effeminate than he was male, okay?
Yeah.
And it showed. I assumed he was gay, but he was not. He had a girlfriend who hit on me at one point. But anyway, he started witnessing to me, and he invited me to a Bible study.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, cool, no problem. I went to this Bible study, and they were called the Way Ministry.
Yeah.
Offshoot, not an organized Baptist, Catholic, Protestant, whatever. Just evangelistic witnessing is what they do.
Yeah.
I went to a few Bible studies. I learned some interesting things. I started opening myself up to Christ's ability to heal my pain.
So ultimately, is that how you started kind of getting into this? Because you
Yes.
you have a knack for
I
this.
moved into a house with 6 other believers.
Okay.
Had my job in a warehouse, and we had Bible study every day.
Yeah.
We take turns teaching every day.
Yeah.
We go out and witness every Wednesday night. We have a church meeting every Sunday.
Yeah.
I sang in a choir. I sang with a quartet. And I learned and I taught and I preached and I learned and I taught and I preached. And I soaked it all up, and I didn't get to tell him a lot about it.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't. It was a complete turnaround for me.
Yeah.
I lived with them for a year. And what I came out is when I started getting my associate's degree and helping people with drug addiction and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
In there, I'm still having bad relationship issues.
Yeah.
Still have separation anxiety problems. Still have trust issues with women. I got in one bad relationship after another.
Yeah.
At one point, I ended up being suicidal again, drinking way too much, smoking way too much ganja. And I was living out in the country. The woman I moved out there with and I split up. I was living in a bus, you know.
Yeah.
I
talked about this last night.
I got suicidal. That little camper he was talking about that he stayed in, well, my mom had a clock radio on the table next to the couch there. You opened the door, you could hear it. I'd listen to it out there. Well, it was on WBAP all the time, AM station, country AM station, which was the Ranger station. Well, I got out there one night and got stinking drunk, smoked a bunch of stuff, looked up at this tree branch and looked down at this piece of rope over that branch, tied a knot in it, dragged a stool over there, stepped up on it, put that rope around my neck, and kicked it out from under me. I woke up. When I first came back to consciousness, I hear, hallelujah, hallelujah. I thought, yes, I've died and gone to heaven. It's wonderful.
It was the
I
radio,
made it.
The clock.
Why does my freaking head hurt so bad? I had this big gash in my head, and there's blood all over the side of my face.
Rope broke.
It was the radio.
Rope broke.
The limb broke.
Not the rope.
And knocked
Limb
me
broke,
smack
smacked you on the
out.
head, yeah.
Laid me out.
And then you woke up hearing the radio.
And I woke up hearing what I thought was angels. Went, oh no, that can't be. And I took the noose off and went and washed my head, threw the radio across the room, cleaned myself up a little bit, and okay, I'm going to walk to my sister's house. I got to go talk to somebody.
Yeah.
This is out in the country. It's like 6 miles to where my sister lives, in the country, on back roads, dirt roads. Well, I start walking, and my sense of direction is horrific. Okay?
I just witnessed this.
I went in the closet instead of going out the door.
For anybody that doesn't know.
Yes. I get lost going around the block, okay?
He doesn't know left from right sometimes, guys.
This is another hand of God. I swear to you. I swear to you. I swear to you. I know basically, my sister's house is to the right. For some reason, I'm being urged to go left. Like, well, okay, maybe it's a shortcut. Can't remember. I keep walking, I keep going left. And I start walking down, it finally straightens out. I'm walking down the road. I see this little church spire sticking up. And I hear, hallelujah, hallelujah. I'm like, what the hell? Are you kidding me? Seriously? I went straight up to that church, walked through the front door in the middle of their service, walked up to in front of the pastor in his pulpit and said, I need some help. I need to be baptized right now.
Yeah.
This country preacher stopped that service, took me in the back, washed the blood off of me, put a robe on me, and took me out there and baptized me right then and there.
Yeah.
Turned me over to the congregation. This big old Grizzly Adams dude in the front row runs up to me and wraps me in a bear hug. Goes, you in the right place now, boy.
Yeah. Hey.
You know? And I got eventually to my sister's house, and me and her talked, and we worked things out, and I told her what was going on. And I quit drinking whiskey, quit doing all the other stuff, got myself kind of back on the right path, you know? And, geez, what year was that? 98, 99?
I don't know for sure.
Yeah, because it was before I ended up moving back to Cleburne. Anyway, that was the last seriously bad suicidal episode I had. And it ultimately, God guided me right back onto the path.
Yeah.
You know?
That's why the path is lit.
Not that it's a...
Right. That's why the path is lit, so that we can recognize when we get off it, oh, I need to get back over there.
Yeah. Not that I haven't strayed from it again since.
Yeah, for sure.
But...
It's human nature.
That let me know there's something to this. I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to do this. I need to latch back onto this, you know.
Yeah.
Eventually, through the course of some of my dysfunctional relationships with women, the last time I was married, I was living in Cleburne. I bought 15 acres, buying 15 acres of land, got a mobile home on it, you know. Everything's cool. We're going good. We're going to church. Not all the time, but most of the time. Well, she's a dead bolt to the max alcoholic. I didn't know it when we met.
Yeah.
I found out later after we were married how bad it was. I mean, she'd go out and start drinking and not come home.
Yeah.
You know, I go driving through town, small town. Oh, there's her car over there. You know, had to go get her. Interrupt the people that are living there. They don't know who the hell I am. You know,
Yeah.
Drag her back home. And I went through that with her for several years. And then she went off, said, I can't do this no more.
Yeah.
You know, she went back to Arkansas. And I was by myself on that place out there in the country. And still working and trying to hold on to it by myself. Well, she called me a couple of times wanting me to help her with her now boyfriend who's fighting with her because she's beep-faced and giving him crap.
Yeah.
You know? She was vicious when she was drunk, too. She was half Indian, so.
That's
Navajo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, she ain't some kind of hoe, but she Navajo.
She decided she wanted to come back here. So I got in my truck and I drove to Arkansas. And I picked her up, and we were coming back to Texas. I fell asleep on I-30, about halfway between Dallas and Fort Worth, coming up to a road. What do you call those things?
Roundabout.
It's one of those roadside things where the trucks get
rest
off.
stop.
And you go, rest stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was an 18-wheeler coming out of that rest stop, slow, second gear, third gear. I was asleep. Had a seatbelt on. She didn't. It's a prime truck.
Yep.
Every time I get around a prime truck to this day, it freaks me out.
Yeah.
I smacked clean into the butt end of that truck.
Yeah.
Hit the windshield. That's the last thing I remember. I woke up 9 days later. My truck's destroyed. My job don't want me back. my wife's been buried.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I've been in a coma for 8 days.
Yeah.
So I went and just left everything out there and went and moved in with my little sister.
Yep.
And
Don't
started.
go too far on this path.
No, this
Just
is
so
where
you know.
this is where I'm going to stop right here. I had to learn to walk right again. You know, I couldn't talk good all the time. I was constantly picking little pieces of glass out of my forehead.
Yeah.
He still itched when
And
he
I
came
still
back.
do that sometimes. You'll find me doing this, you know. But
Yeah.
that was the last rock bottom thing for me.
Yeah. There was a moment there where it was almost game over.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know because I need to tell the rest of this story.
Yes, you do. You need to go
But
from here.
we let him go, and that's cool because all that needed to go.
Yes. That's kind of preface for where we go from where you are.
Right. So, look, again, there's a whole bunch of details that I can give from 15 to 26 about a lot of things that happened. There's one story I will tell that's really hard for me to talk about. I talked about it a little yesterday.
Yep, I know exactly where you're going with this.
Yeah, but it needs to be said.
It's got to come out.
It's part of it. So, by 19, I had 2 children. I am now married. I'm doing the best I can do, which isn't very good, by the way. Again, a lot of things happening. Just trying to, take care of the family. And we get pregnant again. I believe 22. And it didn't feel good in the moment. Like we neither one of us were really like excited about it. But of course, we're going to make the best of it. Anyway, I remember this day like it was yesterday. We got a call that we had to go. The doctor called and said, "Hey, we need you to come in." It was kind of impromptu. We had an appointment or whatever. It was oh no, I got to tell this part of it. I'm sorry. We had gone and had the sonogram, so we were roughly 3 months-ish in. And we had gone and had the sonogram, and it was a student that was doing the sonogram. And she was getting very kerfuffled. I don't know another way to say it. Like she was like confused and like, I can't figure out why this won't do what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to be, I'm doing this thing and I'm measuring the skull, I'm measuring the head. And, oh man, this is wild. The lead nurse comes in and her name is Aura. Of all the names that could be said is Aura. And she's like, I can't understand why this works. Or why this isn't working. And she goes, nope, I know exactly what it is. Click, click, took a couple pictures. Here you go. We'll get in touch with you. I don't know, 5 to 7 days later, we get a call. The doctor's name was Dr. Little. And I remember this because there used to be a freaking cartoon called The Littles, right? Yeah. And I remember this so well, but also remember because of, what happened. And he says, I need you to come in. We need to have you come in. And we go into this big office. Like, this isn't Dr. Little. This is Dr. Little. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's books everywhere. And he's got books all over his desk open to all these different things. And he's distraught and like you can tell he's not ready to have this conversation. Like I knew walking through that door, I could feel the aura.
This ain't bad. This is bad. This is real bad.
I could feel the aura, so to speak.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. Oof. And we sit in front of this man, and he tells us that our baby has a form of anencephaly, which is not always fatal, but most of the time. It's a spina bifida form that causes paralysis in a lot of kids and things like that. But this kind of spina bifida means that the skull didn't close. And so it had no brain matter in its head. It didn't seal, right? It's like he explained it to us like a zipper. Yeah. He said the zipper just got stuck and it didn't close. So he wanted to have some tests done, and I had to watch this woman take a needle through her freaking belly that was like this freaking long and a lot of other things that were awful. And I remember watching them take the fluid out of the sac, and it was red, like it was bloody. We asked him, so what do we do? He said, all I can tell you, because this is not common, which thus all the books, is that this baby will not survive. Yeah. It will not live.
Basically, it doesn't have, at this point, has no, there's probably a brain in there, but it doesn't have the fluid around it needs to survive. And
he said it might breathe air for 30 seconds. It's going to die.
Yeah.
Right. He said, if you carry to term and you birth this child, it's going to die either way. He also said that if you carry this baby to term and give birth to it, there's a 50-50 chance that the mom won't survive.
Yeah. So
we're like, I'm 22.
And you're like, no, we're not doing that.
Well, no, I was like, what do you think we should do? Because I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Neither one of us has ever faced anything like this. We faced a lot of crap in life. Her too. Like, what the hell are you talking about? What are we supposed to do? He goes, you need to terminate pregnancy. That's my suggestion. Or you can carry to term and take the chance. But you're going to bury that child one way or the other.
Yeah.
Okay. Enough said for me. Right? And in the moment, it's easy to say.
No.
So we're gonna have an abortion, but she's past the first trimester, so it's a special kind of abortion, and there's only a few places to do them. We had to go to Dallas. This is a whole nother part of the story. The travel, the whole thing, the journey to get to where we needed to be to have this done was tumultuous at best. And again, I've got a woman who is lost and me trying to hold it together, and a car that keeps breaking down and overheating the whole way there. Now I know why. Because originally this thing was scheduled to happen on my birthday.
Yeah.
It would have been my 23rd birthday, I think. Timeline's a little messy, but it's on my birthday. I truly feel like God just didn't allow that to happen.
Yeah.
Because we had to go back to Amarillo from where we were at. We were on 287 in the middle of the night and nowhere, sleeping on the side of the road, waiting for this car to cool down enough to travel. But when we turned around and came the other direction, it didn't overheat the whole time until we got all the way home. Once we got home, it pegged out on the thermometer. Crazy. I know it's wild and probably hard to believe. Anyway, her grandmother, who is another person that hard person, but a very loved God more than anybody I know. And did a lot of things the right way. Paid for us to get a rental car and turn back around and go again the next day. We're staying at my mother's house. I knew where he worked. I tried to call up there because I had no other means of communication. And I did get an answer, and they said, well, he's not here right now. Can I take a message? I left a message. Never heard anything back. He has a part in that story and says that, they never gave him a phone number. They gave him the message but no phone number, which
and that, not in my defense because there is none, but my manager, my supervisor, whatever, whoever, I remember his name was Alan, took the message when I walked in. And it's I worked in a warehouse. You have to go in and get a scanner gun and all this good bull stuff and find out what your assignments are. And he called me to the office when he saw me come in. He said, hey, your son called. And he handed me a piece of paper. It said, John Traylor. I said, okay. What did he say? Nothing. He just wants you to call him. Well, I don't have a phone number. Well, I don't either. Well, what? What are you giving me this for? What am I supposed to do with this?
I would assume at that point he probably thought that you knew the phone number.
Well, and
that would be possible.
It may be so. Maybe so. Maybe, and I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I mean, until just now, I never thought about until you said that might have been the case.
Yeah. It's probably the case. He doesn't know that you and your son have this this relationship where y'all haven't spoken. He doesn't know that you don't know his phone number, so he probably assumed you did know
that I had it. Yeah,
his phone number. So he's like, "Oh crap, man! Hey, you need to call your son."
Yeah,
and unbeknownst to him, you didn't have his phone number.
Yeah.
So
So anyhow, I don't hear back from him, which is all fine and good, but we're not good, man. And I mean, in my emotional state, I may not have given a number. I don't know. I don't remember. But we didn't have any money, and we were in trouble because we had to pay for this thing. And I called the only person that I knew to get a hold of, and that was my grandfather, his dad. And my Uncle Kenny answered the phone. And I was like, "Hey, man, is Papa there?" And I could tell by the response that this is not good, because he just kind of took like a double take breath. So nobody ever called you? And that was the response. He said, "Nobody ever called you?" And I said, "He's gone, isn't he?" And he said, "Yeah, it's been about 2 years."
So not only did you get thumped by your dad not showing up, you found out that your grandfather had passed away and nobody told you. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, cheese and rice. I in this public place, in a place that's very emotional already, lost it, man. I'm donezo. And she's trying to calm me down, and I just go in the bathroom and I slam the door, and she's just like picks up this phone and is like, I don't even know who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She'd never even met this man. And she's like, okay. And she hangs up and she's knocking on the door, and I'm like, "I'm good. Just give me a minute. I'm good. I promise you, a billion and one thoughts went through my mind. I wanted to be done with this. I'm done. And on top of that, there's a lot of judgment coming from all the people in this place, all the people that work there, all these people looking at this young couple, you know what I mean, about why we're there. Because this is an abortion clinic, okay? Yeah. So I finally composed myself enough to come out of there. I probably didn't say 2 more words for about 10 days. I don't know. And we finally met with the nurse, and the nurse figured out what we were there for and why. And they got real nice all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And anyway, we get through with it. And then we had to go on with our merry little lives like it never happened.
Yeah.
And it happened. The final thing happened. The abortion took place on April 24th, the day after my birthday. But it's still a scar, and it does affect me when that date comes around, when my birthday comes around. And ultimately, we did end up having another kid, my youngest, roughly a year later, Joseph. He was born on May 12th the following year.
Seth is the oldest one.
Seth is the oldest one.
Okay,
yes.
Yeah. So sorry, my timeline's off too.
Barely over 12 months later, we had another child. That was our son Joseph. And then, I got my stuff together. I became more of a man at that point. To be honest with you, this was a life-defining moment. I'm not going to say I became much better as a person, but I didn't know where else to go but God, man. I really didn't. I didn't know what else to do. Who else do you talk to at this point? And I know people will say that the situation meant you didn't have a choice, but you always have a choice, okay? Yeah. And the way that people perceive that thing, there's not any. They call like they could. So I hear these people talk about murderer. So yeah, that thing that I didn't do when I was 12, I did when I was 23 or 24, and that's the way people approach it until they find out what happened.
That was 2004.
It's ish.
Okay.
2, 3, or 4.
When I came out of what I came out of and went and moved in with my sister, which is roughly about the same time, I turned my back on God. Right. I didn't want anything to do with him anymore. He's not doing anything to help me. You know, he's turning toward him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So I'm getting my stuff together. I land myself a job that I thought was a really good job. Today I would look back and say I hated that job. But anyway, it was enough. It had health insurance and all that kind of stuff at FedEx. I worked there. I was responsible. I was a quality assurance person. Okay, it was like I was treated like leadership in the building, and my responsibility was to find people. Literally, when we had boxes that had a PO box on it, I had to search and find where this person physically lived, because FedEx doesn't deliver to PO boxes. That's only the post office can do that.
Yeah.
So at this point, I had probably seen my dad and talked to my dad 4 times in a decade. I mean, and that might be over-exaggerating, under-exaggerating. I don't know for sure.
Couldn't tell you.
But I sat in front of this computer one day. I'd probably sat in front of that computer multiple times and said that I wanted to find you. You know what I mean? I wanted to find you.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it. You know what I'm saying? And then finally, this day came.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in front of that computer, and I'm talking to myself and God. And I just decided, I was like, you know what? God, I'm done trying, but this is my last effort. I'm going to give one last chance to just talk to this man one time. Because honestly, I didn't expect anything beyond one conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And I started looking around, and I would look for your name. Didn't find a lot.
I was off the grid. Damn. Once I moved in with my sister and her husband, I don't know that I ever put in an address change.
Yeah.
I didn't have a phone number.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I would frickin' look up a phone number. I would look up a phone number, and there would be a number and an address, but it was old.
Yeah, it was not good anymore.
And there would be no answer.
Yeah.
And then I finally was like, okay, I know Charlie Parker. I know my uncle is a master electrician. I know he owns his own business, right? So I'm like, okay, Parker Electric. It's Parker Electric, I think. It's Parker Electric and not in Alvord. What town is that?
Boyd.
I knew that too. Like, I knew the town. So I was like, okay, so Parker Electric, Boyd. And I find it. I find a phone number for Parker Electric. And it's directly to my uncle's cell phone. And I call the number, and this weird man, he says, Parker. And I said, hey, Daryl, this is John. John who? John Trailer. Trailer? Yes, sir. Well, hell, boy, your dad's in my house. I'm like, okay, awesome. Do you got a number? Because I don't know it. And he's like, yeah. Here's the number. I write it down. I call the number. It's my Aunt Charlie. Charlie.
We call her Charlie.
We call her Charlie.
But
and she answers the phone. Hello. Kind of annoyed. Because they all sound annoyed.
Who's interrupting me? I'm playing SimCity. Get out of
here. And I said, well, hey, Aunt Charlie. And she's like, who is this? I said, it's John. John Trailer? Yes, ma'am. What? Hell. And just,
I can just hear it.
Gets dead silent, man. She just starts walking. She doesn't even hold the phone next to her head no more. And I hear it. Yeah. Michael, somebody wants to talk to you. And I hear the, Lord. He didn't say anything, but I hear the annoyance. You know what I mean?
I'm playing Xbox. Leave me alone.
And I hear the door open. And I hear, hello. I said, hey, Dad. And that same double take breath that I heard from Uncle Kenny when I found out about my grandpa passing, I heard that same breath from my dad in that moment. And
Charla was standing there, and I remember looking at her and going, give me a minute. And I turned around, walked back in my room, and shut the door before I could say anything. But
yeah. that moment, it was like a double take moment, you know what I mean? And I heard, again, he was like, John, I thought you were in prison. Because apparently there was some story that I had gone to prison for lottery ticket fraud or some crap. But anyway, I didn't go to prison.
Facebook is the devil.
Facebook is the devil. That's why we're scared of the social.
He has no idea what's happened to me.
Yeah, at this point,
he has no idea what I've gone through or where I am emotionally or financially, or he knows nothing about what's going on with me.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that since I moved in there, I've done that to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was astounding because I had prayed the night before because my nephew's the one that told me, I heard John was in prison. Somebody told me he was in prison for 20 years for stealing lottery tickets from Tootin' Totem. I'm like, well, crap. Okay, I guess I won't see him for a while.
Yeah.
But I had prayed the night before he called. And you can swear I'm making this up all you want if you like, but it's the absolute truth. I prayed on my hands and knees, even though I turned my back on God, didn't care about him, didn't think he cared about me, didn't want nothing to do with him. I begged him, God, please let me know where John is.
Yeah.
Tell me where John is, please. I need to find John.
Prayer answered.
The next day, man.
Prayer answered.
The next day.
The next day.
The next day.
Yeah. I so remember that moment so much, man. I remember sitting in front of that computer. I remember sitting on that phone at work. I'm at work, man. I'm not at home. I'm at work. And I'm having this, I'm trying to be like, okay, John, keep your composure here because I can't lose my stuff in this moment. But that was it, dude. I seriously, again, I wasn't as committed to God at that moment as I am today, right? I hadn't, it's not the same, right? I had a relationship, but not as deep rooted a relationship as I have today. Make sense? Yeah. So in that moment, I told God, I said, this is it. If you want me to find him, if you want me to know him, this is it. And I mean, how is that even freaking possible? Excuse me.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I mean, it's so, that in itself is miraculous to me that happened that way. And being able to look back now, and when the rest of you out there have heard about our journey from there to where we are now, you'll understand too.
Yeah.
It's a miraculous path of two people just curving and falling off the path, on the path, away from each other, back a little closer, farther away, and finally connecting when God decided it was time for it to connect.
Because God's timing is perfect.
Not in the time that you think you need me the most.
That's right.
That you can't do it without me.
Yeah.
Not in the time that I need him the least, I think.
Yeah.
And can do it without him.
Right. Nobody can do it without him.
Not then.
Yeah.
No, and that's what part of what I had to learn. Yeah. And he'll tell you, I've made the statement more than once after we finally got back together. I don't need the threat of some deity that's going to punish me for being bad to be a good person. Yeah. I don't need that. Why do I need that? I can be good without that. Yeah, right.
Man, so that I turned it off. You're good.
Okay, thank you.
That is a good leaving off point again. I know we probably didn't want to make this a 3-parter, but I think it has to at this point. So, man.
So we can start the next episode with how you actually got down there to me and how I actually ended up here.
Yep, 26 to now.
Yeah.
The last
26 to
18
now.
years. It's been 18 years. Holy smokes.
No, that's crazy.
So, anyway, for Bumper Sticker Wisdom, I'm John.
I'm Jason.
I'm Dad.
Thanks.